Well, hello everybody. Welcome to day one, part one of our next 40-day challenge. There's a lot of information coming your way, and today will be sort of an overview of the things we will be touching on over the next 40 days. So lots of information, lots of material. You can listen to these videos in your car. I'm trying to make them 10 to 12 minutes long. If you have questions, there will be a Q&A each week. So I will write down your questions, assuming if they're just simple questions, I'll just go ahead and text you back. But questions that require a more in-depth answer, I will answer via the Q&A each week. Nobody will be ignored. So because the topic revolves around weight loss, I just want to again reiterate that 3,500 calories really is a pound, and how we lose that weight matters. Meaning, are we losing mostly fat, or are we losing a whole bunch of lean tissue along the way? At the end of the day, a calorie really is a unit of measurement of energy. So we need there's 3,500 calories that need to be burned in the human body in order for a pound to be lost. Now, that is separate from water weight. Water weight fluctuates dramatically for different reasons, which we can talk about at different times. So people that weigh themselves every day, sort of nonsensical, especially women who are menstruating and are about to get their period or do have their period. You can fluctuate a few pounds each day because of estrogen spikes and things of this nature. So what I want you to recognize is that when we're talking about weight loss, I'm talking about actual fat or lean tissue mass coming away from the body, not water weight. And that requires 3,500 calories. That would mean that 500 calories a day for 7 days to lose 1 pound. That's a lot. So when people say I only lost a pound this week, well, guys, if you kept that up for a year, you'd be 52 pounds lighter. Of course, there are things that happen along the way, which we'll talk about, that would prevent you from losing an infinite amount of weight, right? So if you just kept doing that, so if you just kept at a 500 calorie deficit, would you, for 5 years, would you disappear? No, the body will correct itself, and we'll talk about what happens there. It's fascinating mechanisms that the body has in place all of the time. So, but at the end of the day, 3,500 calories a pound. Now, there's a whole bunch of factors at play here. Talked a little bit about endogenous and exogenous forces at play in the previous video. Just to reiterate, endogenous would be things like hormones. And we're not just relegating this to testosterone and estrogen in terms of male and female. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of hormones. We're going to talk about hunger hormones, and why is it that after you eat, you still feel hungry, or you never actually feel full. This is a very common thing, and it's mapped onto certain diseases that are reversible. Genetics, obviously, there's a lot of genetic factors that we will address. I'll talk to you a little bit about the most significant ones. You don't necessarily need to get a 23andMe test in order for me to accurately tell you certain things, but other things, a 23andMe test would be helpful. There's biochemical factors, meaning are you on medications, or just simply within your body, chemically in your brain. There are things that could be very consequential, especially when it comes to sleep, meaning do you have trouble falling asleep? Do you have trouble staying asleep? Your sleep maps on tremendously to a hormonal cascade, which will certainly affect your overall mental health and weight loss, your ability to recover, and if I didn't say it already, your mental health, cognition, even your IQ. There's a man by the name of Matthew Walker from Stanford University. He is in charge of their sleep study clinic. He's one of the most respected researchers in the world on sleep. I highly suggest reading his book. It is unbelievable. Similarly, there's digestion. We talked, remember, if you didn't watch it, I would go back to the very first 40-day challenge, and I did a day completely on digestion. You would be shocked at how many factors there are just in digestion. It's not what you digest, it's what you absorb that matters. So those are just some of the things happening in your body that would affect this 3,500 calorie cluster, okay, from one person to the next. hormonal factors, genetic factors, biochemical factors, digestion. Outside of your body, there's obviously the food you eat, and we'll get into detail about that. Does it matter if I'm eating lean protein and salads and varying my fiber and doing that as opposed to just having 3,500 calories of soda per day? Well, yes, it does. And I will talk more specifically about that. Now, just to be clear, if you're the person that eats the lean proteins and the salads and the fiber and all these things, if you reduce your calories by 500 each day, and the person drinking the soft drinks every day reduces his calories or her calories by 500 each day, both of you will lose a pound at the end of each week. However, there's a whole bunch of things that you need to understand about what's sustainable, what's not sustainable, and what's easy and what's not easy, and why most people fail when they diet. There are reasons why things like the cookie diet and whatnot inevitably fail. They fall into the umbrella of 95%. And this is well researched, well studied. 95% of everybody who says that they're on a diet right now, they say, I'm on a diet, I'm on this diet, that diet, I'm dieting. 95% of them, if you check in on them in 2 years, they're heavier. They're heavier. We're doing a terrible job of dieting. We need to understand these principles. So some of these exogenous factors, like I said, it has to do with food. Obviously, the food we put in our mouths is outside of us. But also the imposed demands of what we do every day. Do we have a job where we sit all day long as opposed to a job where we stand? And is there a way that we can navigate this to maximize our weight loss and our joint health and all of these things? Absolutely. And all of this stuff has been and is in the manuals over the years. Whether or not you've seen it may be another story, but we will delve into it. Hydration, right? How much water you drink, water that's out there that you put into your body. Remember, the combination of the lack of sleep and lack of hydration will map onto feelings of hunger. There's evolutionary reasons for this. So if you feel hungry, it's very often because you're underslept and dehydrated. So hydration is a huge factor for a whole bunch of reasons, but including, since we're talking about weight loss, the ability to stay and feel satiated. Supplementation. When we go into a calorie deficit, one of the things I want you to recognize is if we go back to that model of the person drinking mostly sugar or soft drinks and whatnot, chips and blah, 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 you put them in a calorie deficit, just recognize that automatically, let's just assume that they were consuming, to make it easy, 2,500 calories, and now they make it 2,000 calories. Well, all of a sudden now you're taking away 20% of their calories. Well, that's 20% of the micronutrients, meaning the vitamins and minerals, from their diet. So whatever they were getting, you're taking away 20%. So a person eating that way is already likely deficient in a whole bunch of things, which we will talk about in detail. Now you're giving them 20% less. So this is the reason why eating foods that are more nutrient dense, and that's a loaded word, but you understand what I mean in this context, that when you're eating foods that are super high in vitamins and minerals naturally, you take away those 500 calories, well, you still have this pool of vitamins and minerals to draw from, as opposed to the other side. Sleep hygiene is another thing. So sleep, meaning we talked about endogenous factors in your brain. I'm having trouble falling asleep. I can't stay asleep. This is happening in your brain. That's inside of you. But there's also something called sleep hygiene, which is your environment. You can go back to the second 40-day challenge, and I did 2 different videos on sleep, and a lot of it revolved around exactly this concept, sleep hygiene and whatnot. So these are the things we will talk about. And I'm just going to show you that here is that you guys will get this, but this is the phase 1 goals. And I just draw your attention to page 14. Just hear me out what these phase 1 goals are. This is phase 1 goals, 1. There are 10 of them. And the first 3 are highlighted. So in the manual, I just encourage you to read the highlights. If you don't want to read the whole thing, just read the highlights. So phase one goal is eat organic food, consume vegetables at every meal, and vary all fiber sources. I would just tell you this. If you just did that, especially when I say organic, I'm talking about meat. We'll talk about why. The reasons are massive and extremely consequential to you, but especially meat. Eat organic. So eat organic food, consume vegetables at every meal, and vary your fiber. If you just did that, you're going to be a very successful person. Number 2 is reduce sugar, dairy, alcohol, and gluten. Now, you may say, well, geez, that sounds impossible. This has more to do with the health benefits than the weight loss. So if you don't want to do away with, your milk and cheese and sugar, you're going to notice that it's much harder for you to diet. And the reason why is because those foods are much easier to overconsume, meaning foods that are higher in sugar, certain forms of dairy, certain forms of gluten, meaning refined carbs. When I say gluten, I'm talking more about the refined form of gluten. So highly refined carbs, things that you'll find in boxes, so cereals and things of this nature. You'll notice that as we talk about weight loss, the argument will be that the foods I'm telling you to eat are satiating. You're going to notice that you feel very full. They're hard to overeat, as opposed to these other foods, which are very easy to overeat. But there's also the health consequence of reducing gluten and dairy. I promise you that for most people, not some, most, the combination of both gluten and dairy in the gut causes inflammatory responses, because the average person has some serious gut issues going on. And there are genetic components to this as well that are not uncommon, but I will delve into that at another time. The third thing, the final thing I'll talk about today, is to remain properly hydrated throughout the day for reasons I already talked about, meaning you stay hydrated and you sleep well, you stay hydrated, you're less likely to get these feelings of hunger throughout the day. There's a whole bunch of reasons for that. I mean, first of all, just having water in your stomach, and hear me out, everybody. Please drink water between meals, not with meals. You can have some water with meals. This goes back into digestion stuff. So please, I apologize because there are certain things. I've been doing this for so long and talked to 99% of you 100 times about some of these topics. I know some of you are new, but you don't want to drink a whole bunch of liquid with your food because you don't want to dilute stomach acid. The older we get, right, the less stomach acid we have, the less acidic it is. We want strong stomach acid, meaning very acidic, and we want a lot of it. This is a separate conversation. We'll talk about it another time. But drink water between your meals. So stop drinking about 20 minutes before you eat, and you can start drinking again about 20 minutes after you eat. But by having that water in your stomach, it feels full. Okay, it feels full. You may say, well, Tom, I have to go to the bathroom all the time when I drink water. If you make it a habit, after 1 week, your body gets used to it, and it starts to partition when you go to the bathroom more regularly. I will also say that people that frequent the bathroom, it's a common side effect of being type 2 diabetic, which up to 75 to 80% of our population is. You may say, well, geez, that's impossible. Well, do your research. However, the good news is this is easily reversible. In most people, it can be reversed in 2 to 3 weeks. Same thing with fatty liver disease. We can make a huge dent in taking away fat from your liver. In about a week, we can start to reduce the amount of fat that is in the liver within just a week by adjusting our diets accordingly. All right, so that's going to be enough for today, guys. I just wanted to give you a heads up on this is what we're going to be talking about. This is where we're going. These are just some teasers. But we got 39 days coming of a whole bunch of detail. And like I said, I will try to keep these videos as short as I possibly can. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.